Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my show Rocket Monday. In today's episode we're gonna take a look at China's moon mission. So let's dive right into it. So manned moon mission is the key here, basically triple M. So the last manned moon mission we had happened during Cold War era. This era came after World War II. So suffice to say, thankfully Cold War never got warm basically, so we are kind of safe. And both two superpower, as in Soviet Union, not Russia, Soviet Union versus America, they both decided to show their prowess of their raw industrial might, trying to reach to the moon. Basically that was set as a goal post where they will compete. So both of them tried to reach to the moon, but USA won on 20 July 1969 using Apollo 11. There were many Apollo missions, but be mindful, some Apollo missions was just leaving the launch pad, some were like just going orbiting the earth, some were orbiting the moon. So suffice to say, on Apollo 11 they actually landed. And not to mention, so far only one country has successfully put a man on the moon. Like successfully only one country has done. So why we left? Like if it was done in 1970s, why haven't we gone back yet? First, this is crucial aspect. Many people don't realize this was a war move. This had nothing to do with anything. It was a simple war move, basically a game of chess where if you lose, ICBMs will start flying. So this was done. The moment USSR dissolved, which happened in 26 December 1991, there was no longer a threat. And you might say there is a bit of gap between last moon mission versus this. The reason for that is when last moon mission was cancelled, at that time it was quite clear Soviet Union's communist regime was no longer in profit basically. So they no longer had rich people to tax, they no longer had anybody to tax left. So suffice to say, they were crumbling at that time. So at that time USA was like, yeah, there is no longer a reason to continue this. And not to mention, they would have cancelled Apollo 13 or 14, but Apollo 13 accident renewed the interest, so they got 2-3 more missions out of it. So suffice to say, the moment Apollo mission was done, like first mission, after second mission everybody was like, yeah, no interest into it. And if Apollo 13 incident would not have occurred, they would have cancelled the project much sooner. So suffice to say, this whole idea of like oh, we went back to the moon back in those days, why we can't go back, it's pointless. There was no point in it first place. It's like trying building a island base. Like you will only build it if there is a competition. They knew after Apollo mission that their competition is over, so threat is over, and they got the final confirmation in 1991. That's why from that point they never tried to go back. Second, this is very crucial, and do understand this carefully. It was super expensive. You are talking about $100+ billion in inflation compensated. It's not like they spent that much money back in that day. They spent roughly 110 billion, if you want to consider in 2018's money, to do that project. To give you a context how expensive that is, Large Hadron Collider is $10 billion. R&D budget for a space shuttle is $10 billion. Now you might say this is still lower than International Space Station, and that would be absolutely true. However, International Space Station is a joint venture. Many countries, country on top of country, as in from Japan to Canada to European Union, all of them contribute a sizable chunk. And not to mention, Russia also contributes a sizable chunk of money, infrastructure, and those things combined, that's why ISS even exists. No single country, as I talk to you, has any project matching this scale, where the $100 billion was just to was spent just to show off. Like there are some industrial projects like building dams or road networks or things of that nature, yeah, but those are public good. This was just to show off. Basically this was just trying to avoid doomsday situation. And not to mention, if you have $100 billion, what you gonna do? Put a man on the moon or buy these? And hilariously enough, one of them is named Peacemaker. So suffice to say, during the Apollo era, we learned how to do it. We got the idea. Soviet Union started to collapse at that time, and the fact that they lost their space might really started to show. So all things considered, that's why we left. It was idiotically expensive, and ICBMs are cheap. So these are two core aspects. So why China wants to go? First thing you have to understand, I have read some very interesting comments during my LobG episode, and I will urge you to watch my LobG episode, and there is a lot of detail about that. One guy put some very interesting points forward. However, many people kind of forget that everybody wants to go from India, like my own country. ISRO wants to go there. Russia, they want to go there. European Union, they want to go there. Everybody wants to go there. So this idea that China wants to go to the moon, that's pointless, that's mute. That's like saying everybody wants to be rich. It's simple. That idea that China wants to go to the moon, that's obvious. Every country, once they reach a certain level of prosperity, they would want to show that they still can grow. And the only place for us to grow left right now is space. Second, you have to understand this: if done, if you actually go to the moon, you will not necessarily get like a billion-dollar new technology. This is a common misconception. Like space industry has given us awesome technology. That's absolutely true. But everyone who deals with industry has long data gathering data points. They will tell you that every industry, be it medical, be it computer, be it space, reaches a point what we call point of diminishing return. So basically, the more money you put in, not necessarily, it's not no longer necessary that you will get the same output. As in during the Saturn era, when Saturn V was built, we learned a lot. Now, did we learn the same amount after doing SpaceX SpaceX booster that relands? No. What we learned how to reignite that engine reliably, properly, and have a better throttle. Now, is that the greatest engine ever? No. Many of you know space shuttle engine outperforms it on multiple levels, and not to mention Soviet engine still has higher specific impulse. So suffice to say, we no longer are at a spot where new things will come out. Will there be improvement? Yes, undeniably so. But will there be like, holy crap, solar panels? No, you're not gonna get a new solar panel. All you're gonna get a solar panel that goes from, let's say, 20% efficiency will go to 50% efficiency. Now you say that's double the power. Just check the cost. It's 3 times more expensive or 8 times more expensive. And sometimes the solar cells that goes into satellite, they are 8 to 100 times more expensive than normal solar cells. So point of diminishing return has been achieved with space technology. Will we improve our space technology? Yes. Will we get some technology out of it? Yes. Will it be groundbreaking as it used to be? No. Because it's like saying, oh, we created polio vaccine, now we're going to have AIDS vaccine. We're not going to have it anymore. And not to mention, there is a financial suicide. Anybody spending that much money will no longer able to profit from it. They're like, yeah, we're not going to invest in it. There is no malice into it. It's very simple. It's like, I will not pour my whole life trying to do something and not get money for it. So this also happens with space. Like, everybody can do it. Like, I did like the idea when Elon Musk said this one line, which was very crucial: to make small fortune in space, you have to start with a big fortune. So suffice to say, there is no longer a point where if you build let's say a space habitat, will you learn new things? Yes. Will you be like, holy crap, we had no idea about this thing, now we know? No. We crossed that era. That's the whole point. The whole USA's industrial might came from the NASA projects from old days, but it won't come, it won't be like, holy crap, again, second industrial age will come because of that. We will have new improvements. We'll have finer technology. We'll have more polished technology. And there will be challenges that we have to solve. But will that translate directly as older technology did? No. This is point of diminishing return. Be mindful of it and be aware of it. And if you are having hard time understanding this, I will link to a Linus Tech Tips video, and even that here is specifying Galaxy Note 9, basically Samsung's current flagship. They flat out did not mention performance. Why? They can't push it anymore. They are reaching a point where Moore's law is failing. So this is common. Like right now, you can buy an old Intel 4000 series chip, and like literally you will be in the spitting distance of Intel's 8th generation chip. It won't be like groundbreaking. We no longer have that, groundbreaking, or from first generation to this, holy crap, and now it's like, okay, I'm spending 3 times more and just getting, 5 times more performance. So point of diminishing return comes for everything. Second, this, however, even with this, even if you don't get technology out of it, it still is a engineering and logistic achievement. Because the logistic, how do you gonna make the transport? How you gonna transport everything? How you gonna employ that many people? The logistic nightmare that NASA had to deal with during Space Shuttle and during Saturn V, it's a testament to their endurance that they successfully pulled it off. It must be respected. And not to mention, Humans have to go to, space. Like, that's our final frontier. That's like humanity to become something bigger than humanity, it must go to space. And think of it this way: did you worried about last time when your mobile phone had chips made in either Korea or China? No, you don't. Like, did you care? Your salts and spices, there's a very good chance most of them came from India. Did you care? No. Like, you buy things wherever it's available. So, for as a humanity, this whole idea that China is going to the moon, it's no longer a threat. Then why we have so much fear about it? Why do you see Science magazine publishing image like this, China with Long March rocket, this rocket supposed to represent Long March rocket? I have made a video about Chinese Space Agency, which you can check out here. However, be mindful, the audio is not great in that. So we come back to this whole idea, capitalism versus communism. Now you have to understand, this was the core, this was the principle that we were fighting for. This was the principle, because if communism would have won, it would have killed public. Why? Because public would no longer say, okay, give us freedom, we will give you profit. Government would simply see, if I remove your voting rights, how much space technology will develop. If we remove your voting rights, how much ICBM I can develop. Who cares about your liberty? So this idea of competition was very crucial. The idea, if you wouldn't freak out if tomorrow European Union says that they're going to the moon. You'd be like, oh, interesting, I wish them luck. Or you will say the same if India says that. But why people fear from China is the same. We go back to this communism versus capitalism. Like, let's say that happens, but USA takes it in a different way and says, see, if I block YouTube, if I block Facebook, if I control whatever you do on internet, I can put man on the moon, like China did. So this is a very severe principle battle. This is not something to be taken lightly. This must be understood that if they succeed, they represent a very serious threat. Like, European Union right now is trying to become like China. They're like, we're gonna censor everything on internet. We're like, hey, if you comment something, police will come to your home. Like, this actually happened, and I'm like, what? Like, I can't post links if I was in Europe. It's like, what? So as you can see, this fight of principle is very crucial and must not be taken lightly. This is where the fear aspect comes from. Second, this will create another Cold War. Like, now this part I'm no longer as worried as I used to be, because once I realized Cold War never got into hot war because of the Cold War itself. If people realize that if they went attacking us and we went attacking them, we both will be in a situation known as MAD, mutually assured destruction. Basically, we're gonna kill the planet. So like, there is no win scenario. Basically, both of them lose. So Cold War kind of remains in a Cold War, but accidents do happen. Somebody might accidentally press a button that should not have been pressed, and humanity could die. So there is a risk of that. Now, space domination, this is everybody's go-to word. Like, China is gonna dominate in space. So far, all the research I have done only showed me one technology that they are testing out in space. If it works, can provide them certain edge. What is that? They basically trying to do quantum encryption on their communication satellite. So basically, if they did that successfully, they could have agents in China, or their satellites literally would be unhackable. Like, you cannot do any sort of data hacking, data mirroring, anything. The moment you intercept the data, it will cut down. So basically, in physics, in theory, it's 100% hack proof. So if they do that, they could have a considerable amount of edge in military intelligence and military communication technology. However, USA is not just chilling. They are also developing photonics computers. Basically, computers, rather than working on the quantum system, they are working on photons. Behavior of photons, as many of you know, is quantum in nature. So suffice to say, it's not like, even if that works out, it's no longer like we have this one tool that can destroy us all, because MAD still exists. And they are building this next generation space station. The first station, as many of you know, have already collapsed, and it was like the reason is unknown. So like, there is a malfunction that triggered it to fall out of its orbit, but we do not know what caused that malfunction. So they are building a second one, which will be a bigger one. However, be mindful, it's still smaller than ISS. So this is the fear aspect. Space dominance, they're gonna dominate in space, and this capitalism versus communism, this is very crucial, because many of you know, even though we know communism always fails, communism always comes back. Venezuela is just dying right now as I talk to you. Communism is like killing Venezuela. So this battle is very hard fought, basically. So what is the reality of this situation? So first I want to make sure that you understand this. China does not have infinite money. As I mentioned, like China does not have voting system and they do not have to worry about politics. So they are very efficient with the money. They can almost give SpaceX run for their money, or Jeff Bezos run for their money. They are that efficient. However, they are not infinite. Like they don't have infinite pool of people who are paying taxes. As many of you know, China does not have a very large population that is making boatload of money. Some people are super rich and most people are super poor. So suffice to say, they don't have infinite money. Be mindful of this. Nobody does. This is what collapsed USSR, and if China continues their stupid path, they might suffer the same fate. However, so far they are they understand capitalism is necessary, so they are letting some places run with capitalism. However, they are controlling the people with communism, letting people work with capitalism. So they are kind of hybrid system here. But still, be mindful. They don't have infinite money. First, this should help you relax. Second, space is super fragile. This aspect you must understand. So let's say even if China develops some new super powerful laser based satellite, here's the deal. What you have to do to kill it: send an orbital rocket somewhere else and just blast it with shrapnels. That's it. You're gonna kill everything in space. I will urge you to look up Curl's app. Casserole syndrome. Basically, it's a syndrome. If one geostationary satellite breaks apart, it's gonna send shrapnels, and shrapnels will go down in orbit. As they go down, because they are traveling at upwards of 20,000 kilometers per second, they will crash into things. And the moment they crash into things, they will create more debris. So inherently, killing the entire space is just a fact of taking out one big geostationary satellite. And not to mention, we have something known as graveyard orbit above it. So suffice to say, we have enough thing in space that if you want to kill it, like if USA is okay, I'm gonna kill China, they can do it. This is like mad again, because if they did that, nobody will have satellites. Nobody. So, but it is doable. This is why we have kind of delicate balance here, because China also knows that USA can kill me. USA also knows China can kill me. So both of them have this, delicate balance where they're like, yeah, we're not gonna, accidents may happen. Like China recently, many of you have known, Curious Droid made an interesting video on that China tried to take out one of their old satellite using a rocket they launched from a fighter jet. So that was a test system, weapon test, and they wanted to take out that old satellite. But it created way too many debris. Like 3,000 trackable space debris just from China. Everybody else is 3,000. China alone is 3,000. Simply because of that, incident. One incident caused that kind of catastrophic damage. So suffice to say, if somebody is really starts to space war, it's gonna end more quickly than ICBM war. Now, second, whatever their real target is, they are targeting manned moon mission during 2036. Suffice to say, this is further than what LobG is. So on my video on LobG, you can check out here. So suffice to say, it's not happening today. However, people are talking about China is gonna catch up, China is gonna catch up. It's not happening anytime soon. Till 2030, there is no plan. They don't even, they are not even trying to do it. Now, assuming they they did it in secret, assuming they had funneled a lot of money into it, and how Soviet Union did for their ICBM projects. So let's say that happened. Okay, cool. USA has the answer ready. As I talk to you, by the time 2025 comes around, USA will have 3 rocket systems ready, 2 of which will be reusable. First, SLS, on which my video is already there. You can check out, this is a super heavy lift rocket. Basically, this is the most capable rocket ever built. It can also exceed basically Saturn V, especially in Block 2 configuration, where there has much bigger volume of things that it can send into space, and because it's using hydrogen, it can go much faster. Basically, you can send big things to Jupiter or Saturn. So suffice to say, if capacity and size matters, we got that covered. Now, what about we want to send something big but not that big? We got SpaceX. Now, of course, the only problem I have with SpaceX is their timeline and cost is kind of emotional. However, they will still get it done. Sooner or later, they will get it done. So we'll have second thing. So we will go from 130 to 100 tons. Now, suffice to say, this still might be too big. We have New Glenn working right now, which is being bought by Jeff Bezos in Blue Origin. It will be 60 tons. 2 of these are reusable. These things took decades of engineering. We already did that, as in USA already did that. So suffice to say, if tomorrow this happens, tomorrow news breaks out, China successfully lands on the moon, I can assure you in less than 5 years, USA would have built a base around it. They have the response ready. They're we got it. We got the response. There are two Saturn V. I do not know in what state they exist right now, and there has been some attempts to rebuild that, as in, because it is very old and simple machine, and the new redesigns that were considered for F1 engines, they will make the engine super cheap, they will make it efficient, and they will reduce the complexity of the engine, as in, instead of using 60,000 parts, they will use only 3,000 parts. So suffice to say, they will streamline the process, and they'll get more powerful engines, cheaper engines, so they can literally compete with China in less than 3 to 4 years. So suffice to say, be mindful. Even if China lands on the moon, it won't be first, because USA already has that. Now, there is an old saying in engineering, either you do it first or you do it better. USA still has the technology to do it better. So suffice to say, at this point, I will urge you to relax, just chill. No, doomsday scenario is gonna happen anytime soon. It could happen if, USA slips on their wheel, or like if their politics goes out of control. It could happen. But as I talk to you, if USA does not fall apart from the inside, you are safe. So this was my presentation on China's moon mission and this whole fear about China versus USA. I hope you liked it or learned from it. In that case, please leave a like. And if you truly enjoyed it, I would urge you to share it. And I would also urge you to subscribe. It really helps a small channel like me to grow. And if you're free, please press the bell icon. As always, thanks for watching.